Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, back from yet another disappearing trick yet again. And while I've been away, it seems I have a lot to come back to and cover in the coming days, including a large investigation along with Mellow Online and several members of Sentinels of the Store surrounding a scammer dev that we actually saw some legacy media sites catch wind of in the most superficial of terms, and even they failed to realize everything that was going on that we conducted our research some few weeks back. We also have the controversy surrounding Sweet Baby Inc. and their not-so-virtuous virtue signaling ways. We also have a recent court settlement that saw the death of the Nintendo Switch emulator Yuzu, so I'm going to be quite busy for the next while, to say the very least. But today, there's something that dovetails off of subjects alongside that scammer developer that I just mentioned, and that is the concept of Trojan Horse games on Steam, which that scammer that I mentioned was very much engaged in doing. But first we have to ask and then answer, what is a Trojan Horse game and how do people manage to do this? Well, put simply, a Trojan Horse game is a scam where a developer, if you could even call them that, start out by originally posting some form of low-effort game or even an asset flip, or in some cases even a stolen demo of a game someone else is working on onto Steam. But once they've gotten through all of the standard verification processes that Steam has to make certain a product is functional, they will then change the branding of the store page, the name of the game, and sometimes even change the developer and or publisher names of the game to match a high-profile game, such as we have seen in recent days with Trojan Horse versions of Helldivers 2, Palworld, Escape from Tarkov, and even several instances of the now defunct game The Day Before. And yes, currently scammers are able to make each and every one of the changes I just listed with precisely 0 verification processes in place by Valve, which has allowed this sort of scamming to become a much larger issue than it should ever be. So that is what a Trojan Horse game is. Next, we have to ask the question, well, how do they profit from this? What's the reason behind it? Especially with Valve's 2-hour playtime policy in place for refunds. Well, the profit isn't actually from Steam sales themselves. I'm sure some of it is, but not very much. After all, we know that those can be refunded quite easily, especially if the game being sold is not the game being provided. No, the real profit comes from gray market game sellers such as Kinguin, G2A, and more, where on sites like those you have precisely 0 recourse for when you get scammed, and these Trojan Horse titles are masquerading as higher profile games that people will be interested in picking up for what they think will be on the cheap. Also, once these games get banned, there becomes a niche quote-unquote aftermarket gray market opportunity for these scammers where they can provide unused keys to the thousands of people that actually collect games that have been banned on Steam. I recall there even being several Steam groups that maintain lists of banned games for people to collect and buy, and boy, they must have really loved me back when dirty devs were pulling all sorts of fuckery a few years ago. I managed to rack up quite a body count back then. But as with everything, even the scams grow and change while also remaining largely the same. Just the methods of how they go about it tend to morph over time, and this is one of the more recent evolutions of scamming on Steam. And it is an evolution that, once again, Valve seems to be utterly ignoring outside of banning a scammer here and there after the fact in an ever-growing and rapidly paced game of whack-a-mole. But ultimately, whether it be through the cost of money, the cost of time, or the cost of general frustration, these Trojan Horse scammers and their actions do directly harm the consumer as well as the legitimate developers and their games that these scammers are attempting to impersonate. And of course, Valve has no system in place to mitigate the potential of these Trojan Horse games from surfacing, at least not right now. So what are some of these imposter games? Well, The Day Before had 2 of them in recent weeks, both of them from the same person. The more popular one that we saw media attention was actually originally a shovelware game titled Carrot the Cat, where at one point was actually altered to be a stolen demo for a different game entirely, which I have some recorded footage of both me and Mellow Online checking out in multiplayer with each other while discussing the scammer Sparkling Pishy with other members of Sentinels of the Store while we gathered information. The second The Day Before was an asset flip called 157, also by Sparkling Pishy. There was a fake Helldivers 2 on Steam, which was originally a shovelware game titled Figurality, where the listed publisher was, when it was first added to Steam some 6 months ago, was Soul Onboard Studio, then changed to Albobs about 3 months ago, then becoming B-Side Studio on February 6th. On March 1st, the developer name was changed to Arrowhead Game Studios and the publisher name was changed to PlayStation PC LLC, and it began masquerading as Helldivers 2, where it survived for precisely 1 day before it was banned. There was the fake Palworld game, which was actually named Stolen Mushrooms, which also started its life on Steam about 6 months ago with the exact same pattern. Soul on Board Studio originally, then 3 months ago the developer and publisher names changed to Bozzy, then also on February 6th it changed again to B-Side Studio, the same as we saw with the Helldivers 2 fake, then again on March 1st it changed the developer and publisher names to Pocket Pair and the store name to Palworld, where for that one it lasted a mere 3 hours before being banned on Steam, likely getting caught up in the developer account ban over the Helldivers 2 Trojan horse. Back in October of 2023, there was a game titled Extreme Riding by White Hole Games. 1 month later, in November, the developer and publisher changed to Raverman. And then again in February it changed to Fest Studio. And then once again on March 1st, it became an impersonation of Escape from Tarkov by Battlestate Games. So from that, we have a bit of a timeline for how these Trojan Horse fakes come about. It takes them between 4 to 6 months to clear whatever hurdles they need to in order to position their store pages for the Trojan Horse modifications, generate keys for the game and the like, and then they alter the store page and post their keys for sale on gray market sites. Even though these scams do not remain on Steam for long, they do generate sales on Steam and they generate sales on sites like Kinguin and G2A. Also, merely banning the developers or even IP address or MAC banning them does little if nothing to stem the growing tide of this issue. Now, it's not a massive issue right now, but it is growing and it will become one. These scammers can simply make use of new free Gmail accounts, a free VPN service, and toss up another $100 Steam Direct fee in order to start the process all over again. But why would they shell out $100 per to attempt to keep doing this? Well, because it's a very easy return on investment that can net them hundreds, thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars per attempt when impersonating popular enough games, and allows these scammers to keep selling fake game keys even after the store pages and developer accounts have been banned. Now, Mellow Online and Sentinels of the Store have put out a call to action, and as I am a member of Sentinels of the Store, friends with Mellow Online and several others in that group, and I am a games YouTuber, I feel it's my duty to also put out this call to action to all of my viewers, as well as we need to make certain that Valve puts systems into place to prevent or at least severely curtail these scammers from profiting off of their actions. As such, ever since about 2 weeks ago, I've been considering some what I believe to be fairly common sense options Valve could implement that, once in place, would allow them to do what they love to do best: rely on automation to do the vast majority of their work for them. The first item on my list is disallowing duplicate game names on Steam. Now, this might cause some issues for legitimate indie devs, as some of them do tend to have the same name from time to time. However, I would remind those few individuals that trademark law is a thing, and if you like a name that someone else has and want to use it anyways, you actually shouldn't, as it would be a violation of their trademark, and if they wanted to protect that mark, they could quite easily sue you. So those devs really should not be doing that anyways. So no duplications of game names on Steam. That would be a simple text match and extremely easy for the Valve team to implement. I would also recommend to Valve that any attempt to change an existing game to the name of another would raise a flag in the system, as that might be an indicator of a scammer at work. The second item I would recommend is a verification process for when developer and/or publisher names are changed to existing ones on Steam. If you recall, the Helldivers 2, Palworld, and Escape from Tarkov Trojan horses all changed their developer and publisher names to match the legitimate ones. Under those circumstances, Valve could easily implement something along the lines of, if someone is trying to change the publisher or developer name of an existing product to match accounts that have already been listed on games that are actively being sold, an email confirmation could be sent to those accounts and the name change could be denied until Valve receives confirmation via a simple link that the change is legitimate. The third item would involve some Content ID implementation, where if logos, banners, teaser images, and teaser videos already exist on a Steam store page, they cannot be used on another store page without the expressed approval of the original developers or publishers. If I were Valve, I would also set up a system to flag any such attempts for potential human investigation. The fourth item I propose to Valve is text matching for store page descriptions, where substantial matching would also be disallowed and flagged for potential human review. This would prevent people from simply copy-pasting game descriptions in order to impersonate another game. The fifth item is one that Mellow Online had as well, which would help resolve this issue from growing in the future, which would be to erase the profitability from impersonating popular games on Steam, would be to revoke any and all unused keys that may have been generated by the scammer on Steam so that they cannot be used. Coupled along with that, a method for third-party key sellers to verify valid game keys. Although that latter bit would likely be a bit more involved, as the Steam system isn't really designed with that sort of verification in mind. Developers can do it, so perhaps an extension of that system that exists could be utilized as a foundation for third-party key selling sites. Implementing most of that could help dramatically in curtailing Trojan horses from cropping up in the future, and while I generally do not like them, there is a change.org petition published by Mellow Online in order to help show the number of people interested in seeing changes like those I recommended being implemented by Valve. And I would appreciate you using the QR code on your screen now or by going to the link in the pinned comment down below. Through all of my videos on this channel, my objectives have been simple. If I could steer people towards a good game or steer them away from a bad game, or if I could help be an instrument of change for the better for the games industry, even in a small way, then I'm serving my purpose. And I hope we can all attempt to push for Valve to make a change for the better within the games industry here and now. They're not unreasonable people after all. And I did not want to simply come here to you or to go to them simply screaming that something needs to change and leave the bag with them. Now, I think ultimately that would be pointless, which is why I came here armed with recommendations for how they could change in what I hope is a realistic and down-to-earth manner. Because a discussion on how to make things better is always going to be far more productive than simply screaming that things need to be better. So help me, help Mellow Online, help Sentinels of the Store, and hell, help Valve support what we're trying to do here. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time.